Jonah sat alone in his small apartment, the city lights outside flickering like tiny stars. The hum of Earth's night traffic was distant, almost comforting, but his mind was somewhere far beyond the planet. He stared at an old scratched comm device on his desk. It had been years since he had used it, years since he had left the Interstellar Academy and returned to a world that felt too small, too quiet. Earth had grown slowly, but it still seemed fragile in his mind. And yet it had been home, the place that had shaped him, taught him courage, and reminded him that even small humans could dream of touching the stars. He sighed and leaned back in his chair, running a hand through his hair. His memories drifted to the first time he had met her, Ambassador Livara. He remembered the first step onto her sleek alien ship, the strange metallic scent mixed with something sweet and floral, a fragrance he could never forget. She had been nothing like he imagined aliens would be. She wasn't cold or distant. She was striking, powerful, but there was something gentle behind her silver shimmering eyes. She had looked at him, a young human from a fragile world, and she had seen him, not just a human, not just a boy from Earth, but someone who could matter. "You look like you belong," she had said softly, almost teasingly, yet with a seriousness that cut straight through Jonah's nerves. "Even here among the stars, you are not small." He had laughed awkwardly, feeling both proud and foolish at the same time. Humanity was still learning, still fumbling in the dark, still tiny and untested, and yet in her eyes he had felt seen. He had felt that maybe, just maybe, humans could matter to the wider galaxy, even if they were small. And now, after all these years, the quiet hum of his apartment was broken by a soft beep. The comm device flickered to life, startling him. He blinked at the screen, unsure if his eyes were playing tricks on him. But there it was, a single short message, words glowing in alien script that had been translated instantly into English. "Jonah, I never forgot you, Earthboy." His heart skipped a beat. He sat upright, hands trembling slightly. Livara? After all these years, the galaxy was vast, filled with countless stars, countless beings, and yet she remembered him. His small, fragile species. Him. It felt unreal, like a dream he wasn't ready to wake from. Jonah pressed his fingers against the device, hesitant, almost afraid to reply. Memories of the Academy flooded back. Nights spent staring at the stars, dreaming of what lay beyond Earth's sky. The endless lectures about diplomacy, strategy, and survival in a galaxy that did not wait for the weak. And there she had been. The one person who had seen him differently, who had made him feel that humanity's fragility could also be its strength. He exhaled slowly, finally typing back. "Livara, I thought I would never hear from you again." The words felt small compared to the wave of emotions crashing inside him, but he could not stop himself. The silence after sending the message was unbearable. And then, just as he feared the connection had failed, the air in his apartment shimmered. A holographic figure flickered to life, elegant and radiant, her silver eyes locking onto his as if no time had passed at all. Livara's presence was overwhelming, her grace impossible to ignore. She was here. She had come. "You left an impression," she said, her voice calm but filled with emotion. "Not many humans leave one on me. You dared to speak truth when it mattered." Jonah's chest tightened. Her words were simple, yet they carried a weight he could almost feel pressing on his soul. Humans were small, yes, easily overlooked in the vast galaxy. But she had remembered him. She had remembered the courage, the stubborn hope that humans carried even in the shadows. For the first time in years, Jonah allowed himself to smile, not the small, embarrassed grin of a boy, but a wide, hopeful smile of a man who realized that despite being from a fragile, tiny species, he had touched something eternal. And as he stared at her hologram, he felt a spark of something he hadn't felt in a long time. Purpose. Connection. The knowledge that maybe humanity, small and untested as it was, could still matter among the stars. The message had been simple, yet it carried an entire universe within it. "I never forgot you, Earthboy." And Jonah knew with a certainty that made his heart race that his story with Livara, the alien ambassador who had changed everything, was far from over. Jonah sat quietly, staring at Livara's hologram as it shimmered softly in the dim light of his apartment. Even now, after all these years, her presence was magnetic, almost impossible to ignore. He remembered the first time he had stepped onto her ship, floating high above the surface of a distant alien world. The corridors had gleamed with smooth metal and soft-colored light that seemed to breathe with life. He had felt tiny, a fragile human in a place built for beings who had lived among the stars for centuries. The first meeting had not been easy. Jonah had been nervous, fumbling through greetings and bows that felt unnatural. He remembered the whispers of the alien diplomats as he passed by, their voices like music layered with strange harmonics that made his chest ache. He had felt exposed, small, almost ridiculous. But then he saw her, Livara. She stood taller than anyone else in the room, her silver eyes glowing with quiet curiosity. She did not laugh or look down on him. Instead, she had looked right at him, as if she could see past his human shell and into something deeper. "You look like you belong," she had said, her voice smooth and melodic, but filled with warmth. "Even here among the stars you are not small." Jonah had felt a strange mix of pride and disbelief. He had always thought humans were fragile, insignificant, barely noticed in the endless expanse of the galaxy. And yet here was this alien ambassador, someone who could command respect from entire civilizations, telling him that he mattered, that humans mattered. He remembered the long talks that followed. Livara had shared stories of her people, of worlds that had risen and fallen, of civilizations that had lasted thousands of years. She spoke with such wisdom, yet she had listened to him as if his words held weight too. Jonah had tried to explain Earth, humanity, its fragility, its stubborn hope, and she had listened, truly listened. He remembered how she had tilted her head, studying him with those silver eyes, and finally said, "You fight with something beyond strength, Earthboy. You fight with hope. That is rare." Jonah's chest tightened at the memory. Hope. He had never thought of it as powerful before, not in the vast coldness of space, but she had seen it. And in that moment he had felt something he had never expected, that humans, small and untested as they were, could matter in a universe that often seemed indifferent. There were other memories too, little, quiet moments that had left a mark. The way she had handed him a drink, her fingers brushing his briefly. The way she had smiled when he had nervously told a story of his childhood, of the small victories humans celebrated. The way her voice had softened when she explained why her people guarded their knowledge so fiercely, why they tested newcomers with harsh challenges. Jonah had failed some of those tests, stumbled on others, but she had never mocked him. She had always encouraged him to try again, to rise above the fear and doubt he carried inside. And then there was the moment that had stayed with him the most. She had leaned closer, lowering her voice so that only he could hear, and said, "Remember this, Earthboy. Even the smallest spark can light a galaxy if it refuses to die. Do not forget your fire no matter where you go." Jonah had never forgotten those words. They had carried him through long nights of study, lonely travels across Earth, and years of wondering if humans could ever truly reach the stars. They had given him courage when he felt powerless. They had reminded him that being small did not mean being weak. Now, staring at her hologram, Jonah felt that same fire ignite again. The universe had grown larger, stranger, and far more dangerous than he had imagined. Yet here she was, reaching out across time and space, reminding him that he mattered, that humanity mattered. He realized then that the message was not just a greeting, it was a bridge between the fragile humans of Earth and the vast ancient civilizations of the galaxy. And standing on that bridge, Jonah felt a strength he had never known before. Maybe, just maybe, this small human could once again step into the stars, not just as a visitor, but as someone who could be remembered. And deep down, he knew that this was only the beginning. Jonah felt his heart race as Livara's hologram hovered in his apartment. Even though years had passed, her presence felt immediate, almost alive. She didn't move like a projection. She moved like someone who had always been part of his life, like she had been waiting all this time to find him again. Her silver eyes locked onto his, and in that gaze, Jonah saw not just recognition, but something deeper, a memory, a connection, a trust that had survived years and light years of distance. "You left an impression," Livara said softly, her voice like music wrapped in steel. "Not many humans leave one on me. You dared to speak truth when it mattered." Jonah swallowed hard. Her words struck him like a wave, both comforting and terrifying. Humans were small, insignificant, fragile, and often overlooked. And yet she had remembered him. She had remembered the hope and courage that humans carried in their hearts, even when the universe seemed indifferent. That she remembered and cared enough to reach out made him feel alive in a way he hadn't felt in years. I never thought you'd contact me, Jonah said, his voice shaky but sincere. I thought I would never hear from you again. Livara's gaze softened and a small, almost shy smile touched her lips. I couldn't forget you, Jonah. Even among 1,000 worlds, I couldn't forget the human who dared to believe in more than just survival. You reminded me that small beings can have the largest hearts. Jonah's chest tightened. The memory of her words from their first meeting surged forward. Even the smallest spark can light a galaxy if it refuses to die. That spark had stayed with him all these years. And now here she was, reminding him that the fire he carried inside wasn't just for himself. It mattered to others, even to someone from a civilization far older and wiser than humanity. There was a pause as they regarded each other across the empty room. Jonah realized how much he had missed this, missed the feeling of being truly seen, of being understood beyond his species, beyond the limitations of humanity. Livara didn't just see him as a fragile human. She saw him as a force, a spark, someone who could rise when others would falter. Finally, he asked the question he had feared and longed for at the same time. Why now? Why after all these years? Livara's eyes flickered, silver light deepening like liquid metal. The galaxy is changing, Jonah. There are voices that dismiss your world, that say humans are too weak, too small. But I remember differently. I remember courage. I remember hope. And I need to see it again. With you, Jonah's mind spun. Her words were more than a personal message, they were a challenge. Humans had always been underestimated. Fragile, yes, but never defeated. If she believed in him, in humanity, then perhaps it was time to step beyond the boundaries of Earth. Perhaps it was time to remind the galaxy that even small sparks could burn bright. He reached out to the hologram instinctively, as if the act could bridge the years and the stars between them. I'll come, he said. I'll see you, whatever it takes. Livara tilted her head, studying him carefully. Good. But know this, Jonah, the journey will not be easy. Humans are small. The galaxy does not wait, and even for one remembered, courage alone may not be enough. Jonah nodded, a sense of determination swelling within him. Small or not, fragile or not, he had survived much to get here. He had learned patience, hope, and the strength to endure. And now with Livara waiting on the other side, he felt that those qualities were about to be tested like never before. The hologram shimmered one last time, Livara's eyes holding his. I will not forget you, Jonah, and neither should you forget yourself. The galaxy is vast, but even the smallest human can leave a mark. Jonah's chest swelled with pride and fear at the same time. His species might be fragile, but he was human, and humans, though small, though underestimated, had hearts that could shine brighter than any star. As the hologram faded, Jonah sat in silence, his mind racing. The stars outside his window seemed closer now, as if they were calling him. He had a choice. He could remain on Earth, small and safe, or he could take the first step into the galaxy, not just for himself but for humanity. And deep down, he knew he could not stay behind, because the spark of hope, once remembered, was impossible to ignore. Jonah paced his apartment, staring out at the city lights that shimmered against the night sky. Excitement and fear tangled together in his chest. Livara had reached out to him, remembered him, and invited him back into the galaxy he had only glimpsed years ago. Yet a cold, creeping doubt had begun to grow. Could he really step into that vast, unknown universe again? Humanity was small, fragile, and untested. The stories of the stars he had learned at the academy suddenly felt heavy, full of danger. Of civilizations far older and far stronger than anything Earth could imagine. His thoughts were interrupted by another message from Livara. Her hologram flickered to life again, calm and poised, yet Jonah could sense the seriousness in her tone. Jonah, you must understand, she said slowly. The Council does not trust humans yet. They see your world as fragile. They see it as weak, unworthy of influence. I may be your friend, but I cannot guarantee your safety. The galaxy is not kind to those who are underestimated. Jonah's stomach twisted. He had expected danger, but not this kind of warning. Not the reminder that humanity, despite its courage and hope, could be crushed like dust in a galaxy that had no reason to wait for them. He clenched his fists. Could he really face beings who had lived for thousands of years? Civilizations that treated humans as insignificant? Merely a curiosity. I understand, he said quietly. I know humans are small. I know the galaxy is dangerous, but I can't ignore this. I can't ignore you, Livara. Her eyes softened, but her expression remained serious. Then you must decide carefully. The journey will not be simple. Allies may betray. Paths may twist in ways you cannot foresee. Even courage may not be enough. Are you prepared to face the possibility that humanity may not survive this? At least not fully intact? Jonah felt a cold weight settle on his chest. Her words were not threats, they were truths. He had always known humans were fragile. He had grown up in a world that sometimes crumbled under its own mistakes, that sometimes faltered when the pressure grew too high. And yet, here he was, confronted with the challenge of representing that fragility in a galaxy that measured power not by hope, but by age, strength, and experience. He sank into his chair, head in his hands. The fear pressed in thick and suffocating. Could one human make a difference? Could he even survive the scrutiny of beings who had outlived entire planets? And yet, he remembered her voice, soft and insistent, the way she had once looked at him and seen courage beyond size, hope beyond weakness. Jonah raised his head. The fear did not disappear, it never would, but he let it fuel him instead of freezing him. If humans were fragile, then he would be their voice, their spark, their reminder that even small beings could shine in the darkest places. He had always believed in hope, and now he realized that hope was not just for him. It was for every human who might one day reach for the stars. Livara's hologram watched him quietly. Then know this, Earthboy, she said, her silver eyes steady and unyielding. The galaxy will not wait for you. It will judge, test, and challenge you. But perhaps, just perhaps, it may also remember that even the smallest spark can light worlds when it refuses to die. Jonah nodded. He understood now that the path ahead would not be easy. There would be dangers he could not anticipate. Tests of courage he might fail and enemies he could not predict. And yet he could not turn away. The galaxy had called him once before. Livara had reminded him that his fire mattered. And for humanity, small and fragile though they were, he would rise again. He took a deep breath and straightened his posture. Fear was a weight, yes, but hope was a fuel. And as he stared at the stars beyond his window, he felt a spark ignite within him. A spark of determination that he would carry into the unknown. He would face the galaxy not as a fragile human, but as someone who could be remembered, someone whose courage could matter, and somewhere deep in his chest, he knew that this was only the beginning of a journey that would test him in ways he could never imagine. Jonah stood at the edge of Earth's atmosphere, the vast blackness of space stretching before him like an endless ocean. The ship beneath him hummed softly, alive with the power of advanced technology he barely understood. He had never felt so small, yet so full of possibility. Every step he had taken to reach this moment, the long years of study, the lonely nights imagining the stars, the courage to believe in something bigger than himself had led to this point. Livara waited on the bridge, her silver eyes glowing softly in the dim light. She did not speak at first, simply watching him as he stepped aboard. Her presence was comforting, but it also carried authority, a quiet reminder that the galaxy was not gentle. Welcome back, she said finally, her voice both firm and warm. I have waited a long time for this, Earthboy. Jonah nodded, swallowing the lump in his throat. I'm ready, he said. The words felt small, inadequate against the vastness of space, but they carried truth. He was ready to face the galaxy, not just for himself, but for humanity, for a species often dismissed as fragile, insignificant, and weak. He would show them that humans could matter, even if the universe didn't expect it. The ship lifted off with a gentle vibration that quickly became the roar of propulsion. Earth fell away beneath them, a blue and green jewel against the darkness. Jonah pressed his hand to the viewport, his heart pounding. He could feel the weight of his home, of his species, of everything he carried with him. This was more than a journey. It was a statement. Humanity existed, and it refused to be forgotten. As they soared further into space, Livara spoke. The Council watches all who travel beyond their worlds, she said. They will test you, Jonah. They may try to break you to show that humans are not yet ready. But remember, courage, hope, and truth are not weaknesses. They are weapons if you know how to wield them. Jonah listened, letting her words settle in his mind. He had always known humans were small, but he had never realized that smallness could be a strength. Being underestimated, being dismissed, gave them something few other species had. The ability to surprise, to endure, to rise when no one expected it. That thought made him tighten his fists, a spark of determination burning in his chest. The journey itself was quiet at first, filled with the hum of the ship and the faint pulse of stars streaming past. Jonah watched the vastness outside and felt a mix of awe and fear. Every light was a world, every shadow a mystery. He knew that the galaxy could be cruel, full of dangers he could not yet imagine. And yet the thought of turning back had never crossed his mind. Livara noticed the tension in his shoulders and placed a hand lightly on his arm, a gesture of both reassurance and expectation. "Do not fear the unknown, Jonah," she said softly. "Fear can guide you, but it must not control you. You are human, yes, but you are also capable of greatness. Do not forget that." Jonah exhaled slowly, letting the fear slide away, replaced by a quiet resolve. Humanity might be fragile, but it had something stronger than any weapon or technology: heart, courage, and hope. He carried all of that with him now, a small but blazing spark in the vast darkness. Hours passed and the stars continued to stretch endlessly before them. Jonah felt the weight of responsibility pressing on him, but also the exhilaration of possibility. He was no longer just a human on a distant, fragile planet. He was a representative of Earth, a reminder to the galaxy that even the smallest species could leave a mark. Livara's eyes met his, steady and unwavering. "The galaxy may try to break you, Jonah," she said, "but never forget who you are. Never forget why you carry humanity with you. That spark inside you, it is stronger than you know." Jonah nodded. He could feel it, a small glowing ember of courage that refused to die. And as the stars streamed past faster and faster, he realized something profound. Humanity might be small, fragile, and untested, but it had a heart that could shine brighter than any star, and he was about to prove it. The stars stretched endlessly outside the viewport, a river of light moving faster than Jonah could comprehend. Yet inside the ship, time felt slower, almost sacred. Livara stood beside him, silent at first, her eyes reflecting the distant galaxies. Jonah could feel her presence as more than companionship. It was a challenge, a reminder, a lesson waiting to unfold. "Jonah," she said finally, her voice soft but firm, "there is something you must understand. The galaxy does not forgive weakness. It tests, it judges, it discards those who cannot endure. Humans, your species is fragile, yes, but you carry something rare, something most do not." Jonah swallowed hard, trying to anticipate what she would say next. He had always known humans were small, unprepared, sometimes reckless. Yet he had hope, courage, and a stubborn heart, and somehow Livara saw those traits as more than insignificant. "You remind me," she continued, "why civilizations that have lasted millennia still watch smaller worlds with interest. You humans are fragile, yes, but you do not fear impossibility. You do not surrender to the odds. That is why I reached out. That is why I remembered you." Jonah's chest tightened. Her words carried weight, heavier than any starship engine, heavier than the vacuum of space outside. For years he had wondered if humanity's struggles mattered to anyone beyond their fragile planet. And now, an alien who had lived centuries, who had seen countless worlds rise and fall, was telling him they did. That he did. Livara studied him, her expression softening. "Jonah, I never forgot you. You were a small spark in a galaxy of darkness, and yet you shone brightly enough to be remembered. And now I hope you can carry that spark forward. Not just for yourself, but for your people." Jonah felt tears prick at the corners of his eyes. He had always dreamed of touching the stars, of seeing what humanity could become. But he had never expected to feel seen, truly seen by someone so powerful, someone so alien, someone who could have easily dismissed him and his fragile species. And yet here she was, entrusting him with hope. I don't know if I'm ready," Jonah admitted, his voice trembling slightly. "The galaxy, it's so big, so dangerous."
"What if I fail?"
Livara smiled, just a faint curve of her lips, and reached out, placing her hand lightly on his shoulder. Her touch was not commanding, but gentle, grounding. "Fear is not weakness, Jonah. It is proof that you care, that you understand what is at stake. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward despite it." Jonah exhaled slowly, letting her words sink in. She was right. Humanity's fragility had always been their challenge, but also their strength. The ability to hope, to fight, to endure against impossible odds, that was what made humans remarkable. That was what made him remarkable. He looked out the viewport again, past the stars, past the endless darkness, and felt a surge of determination. Humans were small, they were fragile, But they were not meaningless. And neither was he. Livara's eyes softened further. Jonah, the galaxy may never see humans as equals. It may never recognize your strength. But you will remember it. You will carry it forward. And in that, you will be stronger than they expect. That is the power of your kind, and that is the reason I reached for you now. Jonah nodded, his heart racing with emotion. The fear was still there, lingering like a shadow, but now it was tempered by purpose. He understood what she meant. Humanity's fragility was not shame, it was a test. A fire in which they could forge courage, hope, and resilience. And if he could survive, if he could carry that spark, then perhaps humans could shine in a galaxy that had once dismissed them. He turned to Livara, determination burning in his eyes. Then I will carry it. I will carry our hope, our fire, and I will prove it matters. Even if the galaxy never believes it, I will. Her silver eyes glimmered, a mix of pride and something else. Relief, perhaps, or hope mirrored back at her. I knew you could, Earthboy. That spark you carry, it is stronger than you know, and now it will guide you forward. As Jonah stood there looking out at the infinite stars, he felt a truth settle deep in his chest. Humanity might be small, they might be fragile, but their courage, their hope, and their heart could blaze brighter than any star. And he would be the first to prove it. The ship drifted through the endless black of space, stars stretching in every direction like diamonds scattered across a velvet sky. Jonah stood at the viewport, his hand pressed against the glass, feeling the hum of the vessel beneath him. He was no longer the uncertain, fragile human who had first met Livara years ago. He was someone who had faced fear, embraced hope, and carried the spark of humanity into the unknown. Livara appeared beside him, silent, her silver eyes reflecting the endless light of distant worlds. Jonah, she said softly, her voice calm and steady, you have carried the spark well. You have remembered what I told you, and more importantly, you have remembered yourself. Jonah turned to face her, a mixture of pride, exhaustion, and relief in his expression. I have, he said, his voice firm but filled with emotion. I've carried it for myself, for humanity, and for the hope that we are more than small and fragile. That we can matter, that we can be remembered. Livara smiled, a soft and radiant expression that warmed him in the cold expanse of space. You have proven something very rare, Jonah. Humans may be young, untested, and fragile in the eyes of the galaxy, but their hearts are unbreakable. Courage, hope, and love, they do not measure strength by size. They measure it by persistence, by the fire that refuses to die. That is what you carry, and that is what makes you remembered. Jonah swallowed hard, feeling a lump in his throat. All his fears, all the doubts that had pressed on him since leaving Earth, seemed to dissolve in that moment. He realized something profound. Humanity's fragility was never a weakness. It was the seed of their greatest strength. Their ability to endure, to hope, and to rise again despite everything made them dangerous in the best possible way. He looked out at the stars, at the infinite possibilities ahead. Every planet, every civilization, every unknown danger seemed less terrifying now, because he carried something no one could take from him, the belief that humans could matter, no matter how small they appeared. And Livara had reminded him that even in the vast galaxy, one spark could change everything. Livara placed a hand gently on his shoulder. The galaxy may never see humans as equals, she said, but it cannot erase what you carry. You are a reminder of what small beings can do, and sometimes that is enough. Jonah nodded, letting her words sink deep into his heart. He had spent years wondering if he or his species would ever matter beyond their fragile world. Now he knew the answer. They did matter. Even the smallest human could leave a mark, and he had begun to carve that mark among the stars. The ship's engines thrummed beneath them as they entered a new star system, one filled with light, possibility, and unseen challenges. Jonah felt a thrill of excitement run through him. Humanity's journey was just beginning, and he was at the forefront, not because he was strong or mighty, but because he had courage, hope, and an unyielding heart. Livara looked at him one last time, her silver eyes warm. Remember this, Earthboy, I never forgot you. And now, you will carry that remembrance forward, not just for yourself, but for all who follow. Humanity will be stronger because of it. Jonah smiled, tears pricking his eyes. I never forgot you either, he whispered. And I won't forget. Not now, not ever. In that moment, Jonah understood something vital. Being human was never about being the strongest or the largest. It was about heart, hope, and courage. It was about refusing to bow to fear, refusing to surrender to the darkness. And in that refusal, even the smallest spark could ignite a light the galaxy would never forget. As the ship sailed into the glittering expanse, Jonah felt the weight of Earth on his shoulders, not as a burden but as a source of strength. Humanity was fragile, yes, but it was alive, vibrant, capable of greatness. And somewhere among the stars a human heart would shine as brightly as any alien sun. Livera's voice echoed softly in the cabin, like a promise carried on the wind. I never forgot you. Earthboy. Jonah smiled one last time, his heart full, his spirit unbroken. Neither did I, he replied, and for the first time he felt completely at peace. The galaxy was vast, dangerous, unpredictable, but humanity had courage, and Jonah had hope. And in that, even the smallest species could become unforgettable.